So when I become confined by that moment in my life now has me bound, but that moment is in my past and is unchanging. So just like the definition, I am bound by an unchanging moment that no matter how much I'm arrested by it, I can't change it. It has already happened. So what happened is, some of us are asking God for a husband or a wife. But God said, you want a husband, you want a wife, but you're still confined to your ex. So you're asking me to give you something new, but you are still locked up by something old. And then you expect, when you walk into the newness, you expect to give that individual your all, but you can't because you are arrested. So God said that moment in time that could have been 10 or 15 years ago in your past still has you confined to a point that it's affecting your future. So God said, you're asking me for something, but you can't get what you're asking for until you understand what freedom really is. See, it's some people who've been in situations where they've been mistreated. Some people have used them. They got everything out of them for that moment. And when everything was gone, they rolled out with everything else. And that person is confined to that moment because now they think, just like the bird, I can't trust nobody. So I feel more comfortable being locked up in this cage, even though I know I'm free. I'd rather stay in this cage because I just don't know what might happen if I step out. So they stay conformed and confined to a cage that God never designed for you to stay in the very moment you accepted him into your life. So you find yourself walking around and you wonder why at times you just blurt out an aggression out of nowhere. The smallest thing will send you over the edge. You know why? Because you're still confined to a moment. You're still cage bound even though God has set you free. So you find yourself acting aggressive. Now watch this. Just like the bird, we end up hurting the ones who truly love us. But the ones who mistreated us are gone on their merry way and have moved on. But the new people that God tries to bring in our life to help us, to strengthen us, to encourage us, to feed us, to give us water to drink, to help us, to get to our level, to talk to us, are the very ones that come away with the bruises, the scars, and the scratches on their arms. And their whole motive is not to hurt you like everybody else. But if you don't learn to trust them, then they really can't give you the freedom that you want. So the people who love us the most are the ones we end up hurting so often. Because guess what? When I go to work and have a bad day, they only see me for 8 hours. But guess who I'm coming home to? My family. So the ones that might not care for me, I only deal with you for 8 hours, 12 hours. You gone on your way. But guess who got to sit in that house with a miserable, aggressive person for the rest of the day? The very ones that love you. So what happens to them? Because of me getting abused, now I abuse them. Because of people talking down to me, when I get home, now this is my house, I'm going to talk down to you. So I start hurting the very people who are trying to help me, and then they start walking around limping, and they're bruised, and they're not bruised because of the enemy, they're bruised because of me. But then we tell them, oh, that's a trial and tribulation. You got to get through that. Don't let Satan beat you down. Satan ain't beating me down. You beating me down. Satan ain't beating me down. I got to deal with you every day. I got to deal with you coming in the house, and if something ain't right, then you want to lash out at me. My kids got to deal with me coming in the house and I'm upset. So when they want to show you something that took place in school, we don't have time. Because somewhere along the way, we've been battered and abused. Somewhere along the way, we've been lied to. Somewhere along the way, we've been locked up in that cage. And God keeps saying, son and daughter, you're free. Son and daughter, you're free. And every day, son and daughter, you're free. But he say, I'm not going to make you fly. If you're comfortable in that cage, if you're comfortable with the crumbs that are coming in, if you're comfortable with the water getting changed once every day, if that, then you be comfortable with that. But God says, I want to give you something new. But I can't give you something new if you're happy with something old. So, this is what happens. The owner sits by your cage every day. And Jesus begins to speak to you in that small, still voice, and he begins to say, daughter, start to fly. Daughter, start to fly. Daughter, start to fly. And see, this is what we got to understand as people. It just might be 8 months before daughter learn how to fly. It just might be a year before son learns how to fly. But the owner does not close the door because the owner knows eventually the bird is coming out. But this is what the owner says. This was it. The owner, he tells us, he says, son and daughter, I don't focus on your moaning. I don't focus on your groaning. I don't focus on when you blame me for things that I have nothing to do with. I don't focus on that. Because if I focus on that, I can never address the underlying factor why you are the way that you are. So he says, what I will do is give you grace and mercy. And grace and mercy will keep you, and you will get to the point where you'll understand that, hold on, the very one I'm turning against is the very one that's trying to take care of me. So this is what he says. He says, son or daughter, see, I understand what happened to you 15 years ago, and you're not telling anybody else about it. And you really believe if you keep it to yourself that the problem is going to go away. So what you do is you hold all of that hurt and bitterness in, and you walk around with it every day. And some days you can be happy and rejoice, but most of the times you just weighed out, you're weighed down. And he said, now listen, I know all of this. So you're not keeping it from me. What I need you to do is understand that I have already released you from it. I have already freed you from it. But this is what he says. But I'm not going to make you take a step in me. He said, listen, the word of God let us know that he will make our pathway straight, just like the bird. He comes out after he opens the cage and he cleans up around it. And he starts to make your pathway straight so that when you come out to fly, everything is already set up for you to achieve what it is that he wants you to achieve. But as Christians, we need to learn how to fly. You need to learn how to fly. See, sometimes we need to learn how to step out in faith and not focus on what we see and not focus on what feels comfortable, but we need to understand that God never designed for us to be in a cage. So there's no reason for us to be cage bound and blaming God for us being cage bound when God never designed for us to be there. Now, quickly in the word, this is what it says. It says in 31, Jesus said to the people who believed in him. I'm going to stop right there. Jesus said to the people who believed in him. This is what we got to understand. The only way your cage will get open, the only way that your door will get lifted is if you first understand you must become a believer. So that's why the word of God makes it so clear. It says that he spoke to the people who believed in him. Guess what? Because if you don't have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, your cage is closed. So even if you want to fly out, you're not going anywhere because your door has not been opened to freedom yet. So it lets us know that he spoke to the people who already believed. So listen, this ain't for everybody. If you're not a believer,